Hey, thank you everybody for joining me. My name is Paul Andrews and I am with DPA Microphones. Today we are going to be going over the 4097 choir microphone, which is a really neat solution that I think we've developed. Taking a look at the challenges in and around miking a choir successfully. There are many things that go into a product of this nature that I want to walk you through. Specifically, in the 4097 choir mic, we're going to break this down from the bottom and we're going to work our way to the top of all the various components as to why I think this is a really successful product. Okay, so first off, we're going to take a look at the base of this microphone, right? Sitting right here, you can see that this shaft is connected right here. On the bottom side of this base, you see that there is a soft membrane, right? I'm considering this to be the first part of decoupling or of shock absorption that takes place, but it serves another purpose too. It also keeps the base and the stand in place. By the way, this is a really heavy stand right here. As we move up, we can see that the shaft right here, it comes in sections. So that first section was connected. Second section, they come in 18-inch lengths like this, and they come with a total of 3. This has a top on it here, a nice clean design. But you notice how I can take this off, and I can actually extend the height by adding, say, a 4th or a 5th shaft onto this. So you've got some modularity, some flexibility within that. Okay, now I'm going to take over to a different camera angle here, and we're going to look at the various components that help make this guy up. All right, so first off, looking at the boom section here. The neat thing about this is we've used a tried and true design that we have borrowed from our 4099 series. It's completely shock mounted here. This is what I'm considering to be a second level of decoupling or shock mount. Okay, it's completely adjustable as far as the gooseneck is concerned, so you can really tailor where you want that to happen. Looking at this a little closer, let's dive in. On the inside of this guy here, we are seeing a 5mm capsule sitting at the base of this interference tube. This interference tube right here is what helps us establish a supercardioid pattern in an acoustic sense. That's all housed into this nice foam windscreen, again, that's completely decoupled right here. Let's move on to some of the other components. The cable. A lot of people don't necessarily think about the cable initially. This is a Kevlar reinforced cable. It has what's called a microdot connector here. That microdot allows you to either go wired or wireless with this microphone. So this being our XLR, our proprietary microdot XLR, you can see how that threads right in there, just like that. This particular XLR, you can see here, has a high-pass filter on it that starts about 80 Hertz, which is very appropriate for capturing choir. You don't need anything necessarily lower than that. This is just an example of one of our wireless adapters that connects up the exact same way. So the flexibility in this microphone to go either from wired or wireless in basically a 10-second change of an adapter is really nice. So you can mitigate the need of having cable runs across the floor, potential trip hazards, things like that. Moving on to this guy right here. This is actually the adapter that slides down the shaft. It sits close to the base on utilizing this hole here. It can either grab and hold your XLR connector like this if you're going wireless, or this section right here is actually designed to grab and hold your wireless belt pack. So depending on the manufacturer that you use, you've got the right appropriate adapter. That belt pack sits right in here, so it's suspended off the ground and stays very nice as a one-piece unit there. This guy here being the elbow, you can see the cable management and how it comes through. It's a very nice, sleek design. There we've got our male end of the microdot connector, which I will show how that connects up to the boom. This is completely adjustable. It tightens down onto the shaft itself, like this. Let's go ahead and build this. I'm going to switch back over to a different camera view, and I'll show you how all this comes together. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this shaft, the second one, we're going to pretend that this is all the height I'm going to need, and I'm going to connect this up like here. I'm then going to take my cable control and management along with the XLR and wireless adapter setup, and I'm going to slide that down to the bottom, okay? This next piece right here, you can see I'm going to slide right onto the shaft. I'm loosening that just a touch so you can see that. See how this is completely adjustable back and forth, so you can determine the pitch to which this boom needs to sit at. Now, I take the boom here. That microdot male connector on the cable is going to go to the female side of this one right here. So you think about that modularity aspect and how I like to say, because of the fact that we are a Danish company and we make everything in Denmark, well, Legos are also a Danish company, and I see some similarities in the parts and how you can build things. So that comes together there. All of that then lies in, it snaps into place just like this. So now I have complete control of the pitch. I could even lengthen this cable out. So if I wanted to push the shaft back, if I wanted to extend the shaft, you can see how from this microdot connector here, I can actually take and add yet another 18-inch extension onto that. So the flexibility in this is really nice. Now, here's the next thing I want to show us. Yet another point of decoupling. Do you see here how I can wiggle this section back and forth? Right here in this elbow is a soft membrane material that allows this to move freely back and forth. It's a stiff move, and the idea behind this is you think about in real life scenarios, you're going to have transitions and things that take place on and off of the risers with the different choral members coming back and forth depending on the song or the piece. Oftentimes these are going to be in close proximity and they're potentially going to be bumped. All of this, you can see here, helps zero out the boom so that it doesn't sit there and vibrate back and forth like this, you know, for 30 or 40 seconds. It'll zero itself back out in about 8 seconds or so, which is really nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at specifically how the wired and wireless adapter that sits on the bottom of the shaft, we'll see how that houses things, okay? We'll switch back over to my PowerPoint here just so you can see that picture. So there you can see in both cases the belt pack with the wireless adapter or the XLR and how those fit on that same adapter there. Digging in a little bit deeper, let's take a look at the frequency response of this. This is where I think it gets really exciting because of the fact that this is a directional microphone. It has a level of rejection off of the backside because of its supercardioid pattern, which is fantastic. But you also take a look at a lot of things here. This graph is showing not only the on-axis, but also the off-axis frequency response. And this is where I think it becomes very, very key that we have an accurate on and off-axis frequency response for a choral microphone, because in a real life scenario, there's really only going to be maybe 2 people that are going to be on axis to this microphone. Everywhere else, all of the other choral members that are going to be focused in and around a singular microphone like this one, they're going to be off axis. So you want to make sure that you have accurate off-axis frequency response, as this graph is clearly showing. the 30, the 60, the 90 degrees. Even 90 degrees off, it's still very, very flat, as you could see. Let's take a look at the polar pattern. Here you can see the various frequencies that are being represented and how tightly and in control this pattern is. We call this a supercardioid pattern because of that small lobe on the backside. That backside lobe is really minimal, isn't it? So the fear of potential feedback or something like that that sometimes are associated with supercardioid pattern microphones on stages, that's really taken care of because of the fact that this lobe is so small. If we take one step further, we can dive into all of the actual specs themselves. You can see here, it is basically from 20 to 20. I'll just point out some of the highlights. The dynamic range is 110. The max SPL is 135 before clipping at 10% total harmonic distortion. Pretty good stuff all in there, right? So as a review, the unobtrusive yet elegant Scandinavian design of this microphone, fantastic. Supercardioid in pattern, uniform off-axis frequency response, wireless capabilities, ensure the flexible solution no matter which direction you want to go with it. It reaches up to about 100 inches, 99.7, which is really nice. So you think about that in a lot of ways when using the 4097 choir mic as opposed to, say, a different manufacturer's. The nice thing about this is that you can typically get away with using less of our microphones and maintain the same amount of coverage. All right, so now that we've got the specifics and the details of the microphone out of the way, how do I typically like to mic a choir? Well, here's a nice picture that really kind of explains it well. What I typically like to do is point that microphone, that capsule, towards the back row, as you can see there. That way, I'm not going to be focused in and around any individual to the greater extent. I want to capture the choir as a full ensemble. I don't want to be picking up individual voices, right? Depending on the distance, the rise of the choir tiers there, how many people are in a row, those are all variables that will need to be considered, obviously. If we back up on that picture a little bit more, we can see here that same concept or that same scenario is basically holding true. It just gives you kind of a bigger picture of how that microphone should technically be positioned. So this is the overview of the DPA 4097 choir microphone. If you guys have any questions, I would love it if you shot them my direction, and I'll see if I can't answer some of those. And I'm not getting any questions yet, which is no problem. If we don't get any questions here in a minute, we'll go ahead and end this product review. I will stay online for a few moments and we'll be able to answer some questions if they happen to come in a little bit later. I will be here for you guys. Yeah, absolutely. So this next week, I will be reviewing the MMA-A audio interface. That's going to be coming up on April 20th, 2 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope you all can join me for that. We'll walk through that product and see some tips and tricks in and around how to use that audio interface with your iPhone as well as any USB device. So thank you all for joining me so much. Again, I'm going to stick around a little bit longer in case there are any questions that come. And thank you, and we will see you again next week. All right, take care.